Enlightened investors, I have some exciting news for those looking to dive into the world of passive real estate investing. Many have asked how I got my start in commercial real estate investing. Well, it all began with an event close to my heart. Multifamily Live is back, and this time it's online. This event holds a special place for me because it's where I got my start in commercial real estate investing. Imagine a virtual gathering where you can gain invaluable insights into how cash flow ready apartment buildings are the key to your passive income journey. Take the mystery out of passive real estate investing and step into the active side of the equation to gain a comprehensive understanding so you can invest passively with confidence. Whether you're a newbie or a seasoned investor, Multifamily Live is designed to cover everything from acquisition to asset management. You can be confident that you'll leave this event with a comprehensive understanding of commercial investing. Mark your calendars for May 9th to May 11th. Trust me, this is an event you won't want to miss. Ready to enhance those passive streams of income? Get your ticket now, and together, let's take the next step to enhance our financial well-being, to live abundantly and flourish in all areas of life. I'll see you in Multifamily Live. Hello, enlightened investors. Welcome back to Real Estate Investing Abundance. I'm your host, Dr. Allen, and it is a delight to have you with us once again. Today, we are talking about an interesting topic that pertains to all of us, whether we're young investors or old investors. We're all aging, and I know a lot of young people don't even think about that and consider it. But if you're 20, 21, it's time for you to really start thinking about that, because what we're going to be talking about today is dementia as a preventable condition. And the earlier you start, the more likely it is that you can prevent the onset of dementia in your later years in life. Today, we have an expert with us, Dr. Sally Good, and she is a course creator, psychologist, coach, and author of 3 books on Amazon: Preventing Dementia, Using Gentle Lifestyle Changes, Gratitude Journal with Prompts, and the Prayer Journal with Prompts. Her speaking topics include Dementia 101, Somatic Solutions for Stress, The Neuroscience of Gratitude, and Calm is the new superpower. And in future episodes, we're going to be talking a lot about calm in conjunction with organizational development and personal growth and development as well. 20 years, Sally, in 20 years of being a scientist practitioner, has led her to numerous conclusions, the most important of which is that dementia is, in many cases, a preventable illness, and you can change the trajectory of your aging journey through gentle lifestyle changes, of which we'll be addressing here today. So, Sally, welcome to the show, and just kind of take us into the show and share with us what should we start with in our dementia prevention programs?
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Lomax. I appreciate the opportunity to speaking to your investors. And as you said, young and old. And as we age, we start having more and more friends who maybe have cognitive impairments. We certainly have parents that have cognitive impairments. And after working with this aging population for 20 years and doing a lot of research, I am a nerd, I'm a geek. I'll fully admit it. I like research. I like evidence-based modalities. And I compiled all that in that little book called Preventing Dementia, Gentle Lifestyle Changes. So when you think about lifestyle changes, I always advocate for baby steps. We can't do anything actionable that will last if we sort of say go whole hog and then we get tired of it and then we stop. So gentle lifestyle changes would include just looking at what you eat, because what you eat really, really affects how your gut operates. And within the gut are those microbes that do all kind of really good stuff for us, including making over 50% of our neurotransmitters. The neurotransmitters are the chemicals that make us feel good, make us feel excited, make us anxious, lack of makes us depressed. So taking care of our gut is a big, big part of preventing dementia. People wouldn't even think about that. In fact, we call our gut now the second brain. Within our what we used to call a real brain up here, it's a big neural network. I mean, it's fascinating to study it and look at it. And the more we study it, the more we find out we don't know. The neural network also extends down into the digestive system, and there's about 120,000 points in our digestive system that give information back to our other brain of what's going on. Now, if that gut gets upset, and you know that from gassiness, belching, GERD, diarrhea, constipation, all those kinds of things, if it gets upset, we go from symbiosis, which is really good health, to dysbiosis in our gut, and they're not very happy, and the rest of our body isn't very happy either. Surprisingly, we're finding more and more jobs that the gut actually does. It actually helps balance our hormones. So when women are in menopause, having a good gut function is also important. The the microbiomes, they actually create metabolites from their just living. I call it bug poop, which is really what it is. And those metabolites actually affect our genomic response. It affects how our genes express ourselves within the body. So it's a huge, huge, huge new big area of study. And more people are saying we just don't know enough about this. And we used to take it for granted. You probably had many times you had a gut reaction to something, not something you ate, but somebody you met. Or maybe when we were in high school, we would get those little butterflies when we were around somebody that we had a little crush on. So those butterflies in your stomach are really your neurotransmitters being fired when you are around somebody that you either like or somebody that you really don't like.
Well, fascinating. And certainly the field of neurology has drastically changed just within the last 20 years with the advent, particularly of the MRI or the fMRI in particular, which gives us an immediate view of what is actually happening in the brain. And it has changed so much about what we have known about the brain in conjunction with unraveling of the genome, which occurred, 10 years earlier than that. It's just changed the whole field of anatomical science dramatically. And like you say, those who are in the fields of neurology and genetics and gut science, they all say the same thing. We know almost nothing about these huge mysteries that are yet to be unfolded here. So fascinating indeed. Well, first of all, just take us down a trajectory of dementia. We think it starts after 65, but actually, I think you're telling us that it can actually start at 18 or even earlier.
Well, that depends on lifestyle, but I want to add just a little punctuation to your overview about the field of neurology. We now have a field called nutritional psychiatry. And now they're finding that treating schizophrenia with what they actually eat and changing their gut actually helps with schizophrenia and many other illnesses, certainly with anxiety and depression. So when we look at dementia on a trajectory, on a continuum, if say you're 18, 19, or 20, and you're drinking a 6-pack or a 12-pack every night, you're killing your brain cells. Now, we do have what's called neuroplasticity, where we can create new ones, but the environment has to be conducive for that to happen. So each time you get a buzz, you killed a numerous amount of brain cells. Also, if you're couple that drinking with going through fast food, and that's your whole diet, the products that are come out of fast food are very rarely really helpful or healthy for us. We've gone from an agrarian society to an industrialized nation, so we want things quick. So quick does not mean health. People who are in really bad moods or in bad states of mind, the first thing I ask them is what they eat. So junk food equals junk mood. I'll say that again. Junk food equals junk mood. If we're not if we're not feeding this magnificent thing that's carrying our brain around, our bodies, then our brains don't operate optimally, and neither does our nervous system. So if you're an 18 or 20-year-old and you're investing, I hope you have the good sense that know that you need to invest in your health. Because when you get older, if you don't have that, all the wealth in the world is not going to help you to have a good life filled with vitality, and I like to say lots of fun. We don't age because we stop playing. We age because we're no longer playing. So play is very important, socialization, and that's another foundational thing for dementia. But back to the continuum. As we go forward, if we're still doing that, I'm not eating very healthfully, even up into our 20s and 30s, we may start experiencing some things like brain fog. Hard to get up in the morning. When we wake up, we think, "Oh, I'm so tired. I can hardly crawl out of bed. I really don't want to go to work. What excuse can I make today?" Or there's no vitality in your relationships because you're so fatigued. There's no energy to give to another person. You can't give from an empty cup. So we have to concentrate on filling up our own cup before we can give to others. And that means staying as healthy as we can. As we get into our 40s and 50s, that's when you see the real dramatic shift. Type 2 diabetes, just those extra pounds that people put on and they lose them over and over and over. And of course, we know that smoking is not really good for us, but we still do it. And I was in the store the other day and a young man got a pack of cigarettes and he paid $9 for them.
Wow. I had no
I went, not
idea. Wow.
$9. I had no idea either. I said, he left and I asked the clerk, I said, did I hear that right? Did he pay $9 for a pack of cigarettes? She said, yeah, that's how much they cost now if you get a brand.
Wow.
Just think every day if he took that $9 and put it in an investment fund.
Yeah, gosh. What an investment fund that could certainly be
Yes,
to
compounded annually. Yes.
not only growing your financial well-being, but also contributing to your overall health and well-being and helping you to diminish your risk of dementia. Enlightened investors, if you haven't done so already, be sure and click that like button and also click that share so others can take advantage of the content. And finally, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss a single one of our upcoming episodes. So today we are talking with Dr. Sally Good, and she is a scientist, psychologist, and fabulous author who has written 3 different books and also has a podcast. And you can find Sally at goodbodygoodbrain.com, and that is goodbodygoodbrain.com. And so, Sally, before you just mentioned a minute ago, and we were talking before we came on, but you had mentioned that all the money in the world isn't going to help you prevent dementia. So, no matter how excellent you are at investing, if you're not taking care of your body, you're not going to be able to enjoy that investment. And one example you had mentioned was Bruce Willis, who has been in the news quite frequently because of the onset of his dementia case. Talk to us a little bit about the type of dementia that Bruce Willis is experiencing and really kind of what has gone on in his life.
He has a type of dementia called frontotemporal lobe, which means that it affects the frontal lobe, which is our executive functioning, how we make decisions, how well our judgment is, and the temporal lobes down the side, which have to do with memory. But also, one of the hallmarks of his condition is a condition called aphasia. There's expressive aphasia and receptive aphasia. That just means receptively, he can't understand when we're speaking to him. He can't understand if I said, please give me the keys, he might say the refrigerator. So it doesn't, his operating system is thwarted in terms of communication. And for an actor, you can imagine how devastating that is, especially when he first got his diagnosis. So, and then he will probably be speaking in what I call word salad. It'll be a nonsensical way of speaking. His family will probably be able to decode it because he'll be asking for things and wanting things, but the outside public will not. So he will be not doing any public sort of venues that he has to speak.
Yeah.
And his family has gathered around him, and he has access to probably some of the finest foods in the world because he is financially secure, but he was not able to prevent that. And again, that's just a subset of dementia. It's on the rare side. It's probably really down below, like maybe fourth or fifth. Whereas the top one would be vascular dementia. And that is the one that's really preventable. That comes from having a stroke. And you see the public service announcements, how to prevent a stroke, how to prevent a heart attack, all the things they tell you to do will actually help prevent the stroke, which leads into a vascular dementia. That means that a part of your brain got shut off either from blood supply, that would be called a hypoxia, or it's hemorrhagic, where a blood vessel actually started bleeding and then it caused damage inside the brain. Now, with the fact that we can repair ourselves with the right food, but also with the right thoughts, amazing. Our thoughts really can dictate how we feel. And they found that people who have more positive attitudes tend to get dementia less than people who are in the like, oh, poor me.
Mm.
And dare I even mention social media? Holy cow. Get off your phone, get outside in nature, go pet your horses, go look at trees. There's a great news story. I was talking about having a relationship with a tree on another podcast, and the lady asked me, she said, are you coaching the tennis player in Australia? I think he's like top in the world. You might know his name. Is it Novak?
I wouldn't know.
I haven't, I've been in the tennis game for a while.
Oh, wow.
But anyway, he goes to the conservatory in Melbourne, and he has a favorite tree, and there's a little bench there, and he
Mm.
goes and sits, and he just looks at the tree. And he doesn't talk to it, at least not out loud that we've been able to see, but it centers him. He gets
Mm.
very mindful of his surroundings because when you're playing tennis, you have to be very mindful of where that tennis ball is coming from and how you're going to quickly make it go back to get a point against your opponent. So, mindfulness helps our brain to actually slow down circumstances. Mindfulness helps us to be better investors as well because we don't react to the market. We have a solid plan of investing, and and flow makes it easier to invest and get more wealthy, which gives us a sense of security as we get older. So this tennis player, he has a tree, and his buds, of course, used to laugh at him. Ha ha, you're down there with the tree. And then he became number one. And guess what? They're trying to find their own tree. So I tell people go out in nature and notice. Don't be just walking mindlessly, like, oh, I've got to walk, got to get this over with so I can be healthy. No, take another attitude. Look around, see what's there for you. Look at how the tree changes from week to week. Right now, if it's a deciduous tree, it's putting on leaves. We just had a little cold snap here, but it didn't get down so low that it caused a frost. The leaves are coming out. The ash trees are beautiful this time of year. Daffodils are up. All the little bulbs are coming up. Notice how the tree changes from day to day. And then just by noticing that, you'll become more around aware of your surroundings, which is really good for relationships. You'll notice that your spouse or your coworkers are a little different today. If you're in a mindless state, you won't notice, so you don't get that really good deepening of the relationship. So relationships are very important for preventing dementia because it causes you to interact. And as we get older, sometimes our hearing becomes impaired, either nerve damage genetically. And they found that people who have a hearing loss and do not wear their hearing aids, that contributes to dementia. Now, the theory is, but it's not been tested yet, is that you're not getting cognitive stimulation. You can't hear what people say, so therefore you can't interact. So your brain just goes like, oh, I can't have anything to do now. So wearing your hearing aids is very important if you do have a diagnosis of that. Besides the walking, being out in nature, socializing with other people. The wonderful thing about Texas is people up to like in their 80s and 90s still like to go dance, especially when they are dancing with people from their church. And they even have a beer. Like I am totally not against having a beer every now and then, although Loma Linda University, which is in the middle of what we call a blue zone, where all the old elders there have much more longevity and vitality, say that alcohol really doesn't do any good for us now. Um, I'm not going to expect people to take that advice, but moderation is always a good thing to follow.
At least moderation in conjunction with alcohol. But yes,
Yes.
so we are talking with Dr. Sally Good, psychologist and scientist, specializing in many different areas, but particularly focusing upon geriatrics and the prevention of Alzheimer's. And everything you have been saying, I'm talking about mindfulness and the quiet mind. Uh, I don't know, not that many years ago, we thought of that as just woo-foo kinds of new agey
Mhm.
stuff. The research is showing how vitally important that is to so many things. In fact, mindfulness, a peaceful, quiet mind, is a powerhouse of uh, efficiency and effectiveness. And the positive emotions that you were talking about uh, not only help us to have a better mood throughout
Mhm.
each and every day, but and also helps us to prevent dementia. But it research has shown that people who experience more positive emotion than those who are experiencing negative emotions more often, we have a much longer life expectancy, even up to a 10-year longer life expectancy. So that's real stuff.
Mhm.
And it makes a tremendous difference to our overall well-being and our ability to invest wisely. So these are wonderful things we're talking about today. There's a lot of people think when they hear dementia that we're talking about Alzheimer's, and you have explained to me in the past that there's a great distinction between
Mhm.
dementia and Alzheimer's. Well, Alzheimer's is a dementia, but it's a specific kind of dementia. So, talk to us about the differences there.
Yes. Scientists believe that Alzheimer's has a genetic component because there is a gene called the APOE. If you have one of them, it increases your chances of getting dementia. If you have two of them, it really increases your chances of having dementia. But as I say, genetics is the gun, but we pull the trigger with lifestyle. We've found over time that people can have the amyloid plaques building up in their brain and also the tangles that we believe contribute significantly to the condition that we have labeled as Alzheimer's after Dr. Alzheimer, who actually really sort of outlined what he saw and actually created the diagnosis. And as we age, just because our parents had Alzheimer's, that doesn't mean that we're going to get it. It means that we have to take extra precautions and be highly motivated on a day-to-day basis to do all the healthy things that keep us from having it. Now, once it starts, it's the decline can be, you can have it for 20 or 30 years. There's a really great study where they had some nuns who agreed to be in a dementia study. Now, nuns are a great study group because they're in the same place most all the time. They have a routine. They usually all eat the same kinds of foods. And they also study. They revitalize their brains. So they've done studies of nuns who said it was okay to do an anatomical review of their brain. And they found many of them actually had the beginnings of what looked like dementia, but they had no actually expression in their day-to-day life. So, in other words, they didn't lose their memory. They still went on their business, but even though their brains inside didn't look as healthy as they could have been. And there's a supposition for this. The more educated you are, and that doesn't mean you have to go to school for many long years. Education can be learning a new language, learning a new musical instrument, doing something that's totally novel that makes your brain hurt and you think, oh no, this is too hard. I just don't want to do this. But persist, make yourself do it. And these nuns kept doing new things. And they would go out and do exercises and they did all the things to try to preserve their cognitive functioning, not on purpose. It was just a lifestyle. And so lifestyle can really make a huge difference, and also how well you create new neurons. And we do that by the novelty of either education and education of those things I just mentioned. We have what's called a cognitive reserve. And the more educated we are, the more neurons we have created through that process of neuroplasticity. We used to think once you were born, you were giving a set of neurons, but no, we actually can make them as we get older by doing these novel things.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, you can do the dementia, you can prevent it. So we have Alzheimer's. Then we have the one I mentioned earlier, the vascular dementia, which usually comes from having a stroke where a part of our brain gets damaged. Then we can have traumatic brain injury through many sorts of accidents. And that usually occurs, unfortunately, among younger people because they're high risk takers. Our frontal lobe doesn't fully develop till we're about 24, 25, 26. And then our brain starts going backwards unless we take care of it.
Mm-hmm.
So traumatic brain injury, depending on where you got hurt or hit, can take a really big toll. Now, with all the wonderful rehab facilities we have now, we can recircuit, rewire, do some things that will help people if they have like an injury in their cerebellum where it's hard for them to walk. They can learn how to modify, and they can learn how to modify all different kinds of things. I work with physical therapists all the time. They say things like, you might not be able to do the same thing exactly like you did it before, but you'll be able to figure out ways to intervene and still be able to accomplish the things that you want to. So that's the promise of physical therapy.
Yeah.
So traumatic brain injury is a big one. And of course, self-harm through just plain drinking too much. And it goes on and on and on. And then you get in such a depressed mood that sometimes people become suicidal.
Mhm.
And I tell people it's really, really hard to kill yourself. And I tell them that because they entertain the idea, oh, I would just want to, well, it's just too hard. I just want it over with. I said, well, if it was time for you to go, you know, the guy upstairs would have already said, come on, let's go. So you're down here for some reason. And I do believe that having a purpose in your life really changes the way your entire surroundings, how you view other people. Do you use them or help them? And a life of service certainly increases your just sense of belonging and fun and long-term health. So that prevents dementia as well. So we've talked about Alzheimer's, vascular dementia, traumatic brain injury, and then self-harm. And then also too, there's the dementia that comes from various illnesses like Parkinson's. Parkinson's can affect people. I've actually talked to people who had Parkinson's who were 35 years old, and they fully believe they got it being around insecticides and pesticides when they were growing up. As you get older, the Parkinson affects the part of your brain that makes this neurotransmitter called dopamine, which gives us that little like bump, like yay, yay, we hit that home run. So it lessens with Parkinsonian people. So we actually give them the levodopa, which actually helps the dopamine stay in your brain and increase it. So we get all kinds of dementia based on physiological illnesses as well that affect the brain. And of course, there is the ALS, Lou Gehrig's disease. There's a dementia that comes also with that, just because the brain doesn't, it sort of ceases to function at its optimal level. And those are very sad kind of things. We wish we had more tools to help those folks. But look at Dr. Hawkins. He lasted for a really, really long time with ALS, probably the longest longevity we've ever experienced because he had the technology and he had such a huge brain reserve that he was able to last quite a while with ALS. So those are the main types of dementia that we usually see. So when you're younger, there's risk factors for each stage of development. Early stage, don't fall and hit your head. Don't race your car at 100 miles an hour and hit trees. Don't ski really fast and run into a tree while you're going. I've had patients
Mhm.
who had, and of course we lost Sonny Bono that way. He
Mhm.
ran into a tree and his head injury was too much.
Mhm. Well, we are talking today with Dr. Sally Good, psychologist and expert and scientist in many different things. You can find Sally at goodbodygoodbrain.com. Sally, take us out of the show and just share us one tip to help all of us prevent dementia.
I'm going to give you two.
Okay.
One of them is gratitude. Gratitude actually changes your brain structure. It causes the gray matter around your hippocampus, where we store our consolidated memories, to actually thicken. And so it changes our brain in many different ways. The second way is our magic wand that we have in our bathroom. It's in our medicine cabinet. Here's what it looks like. It's a toothbrush. Surprisingly, or surprisingly not when you think about it, people who brush their teeth at least twice a day have a 69% greater chance of not getting dementia. And that's because of several things. When you don't brush your teeth, tartar forms and some bacteria that like to go in there and make condominiums around your teeth. And then they bury down into your gums. If you ever floss your teeth and you get that bleeding and you're cleaning out the tartar, the bacteria can get into your bloodstream. And one of the main things it does is causes endocarditis, which is inflammation of the lining around your heart. And also, it causes general inflammation in your whole body. And inflammation will affect your brain very adversely, and it will lean towards getting dementia earlier if you have a lot of inflammation. So, just the mere fact of brushing your teeth, they did a study with 1,800 participants, and it was a very well. In other words, it wasn't a fluff study. They had double blinds and A and B testing and all this other stuff. So your toothbrush is your friend.
Well, Sally, it's been wonderful having you and Enlightened Investors. We're all about enlightened investing, and investing smartly takes taking care of your brain and your overall health and well-being. I know you've gotten a lot out of today's episode. I certainly have, and it has been a pleasure being with you, Dr. Sally. Enlightened investors, please take a moment to like, share, and subscribe, and take a moment to go to your favorite podcast app and leave us a rating and a review. We'll be eternally grateful. Until next time, live abundantly in all areas of your life, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thank you.
Enlightened investors, wait, don't go just yet. I just want to remind you about our recently launched webinar that you will not want to miss. If you're at all curious and would like to learn more about how real estate investing can diversify your investment portfolio, alleviate the anxiety associated with Wall Street swings, leverage your 401ks and IRAs to substantially increase the return on your investment, and do all of this with turnkey, hands-off, passive real estate investments, then you'll want to immediately go to stevetalker.com/webinar. In the webinar, we'll also address the common dubious investment schemes that you want to avoid. To access the webinar, go to stevetalker.com/webinar. I look forward to seeing you in the webinar.
Thank you for tuning in to Real Estate Investing Abundance, brought to you by Steve Talker Capital, a company working for passionate professionals like you to develop financial independence built on solid, passive real estate investments. As part of our efforts to make the world a better place, Steve Talker Capital contributes to activities and organizations committed to better understand the equine. These endeavors attempt to enhance the human treatment of horses worldwide. Steve Talker Capital, working for a world where all creatures, great and small, flourish abundantly. For resources to develop your financial independence, connect with us at stevetalker.com.